Hey everyone, it's the Angry Honey Badger, and it's time for another episode of League Talks. If you have a future question for another episode of League Talks, you can go ahead and submit me your questions by sending me a private message on YouTube, labeling the subject as League Talks, and then submitting your questions that way. It's been a little while since I've done League Talks. Haven't gotten as many questions for this series as previously. Maybe that's because I've answered a lot of things in previous episodes. Don't be afraid to go check out older episodes to see what people have asked and how I've answered them. I'm going to probably start repeating some of the questions I got, but I did start this, I think, about 6 months ago, so some of the stuff probably has changed due to the meta and how the game is played and all types of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and keep answering questions, so if you have ones, go ahead and send them to me. Other than that, probably won't see League Talks very often because I just don't get that many questions for it. Some of these date back pretty far. Because they just kind of trickle in slowly, but we'll go ahead and see what we have today and go ahead and start answering some of them. My first question comes in today from someone asking, do you think the current meta, Bruiser, Top, Tanky, AP Mid, Jungle, Support, and ADC Bot, will this ever change anytime soon, and if so, what do you think it will develop into? I actually don't think it will change anytime soon. I think the only time it will change is when the pros start doing something differently, if they do something differently. I have seen a handful of teams doing the two jungler thing, where they kind of jungle with two people and kind of do extreme ganking, because the other lanes typically will push since there's less people holding them. So that might be something you see a little bit, but that'll be interesting if everybody jumps to that, because then two junglers on both sides really won't affect anything, but it's kind of an interesting concept. I think a lot of teams nowadays, especially in the pro plays, are just going to be doing things that are going to help counter the other team that they're playing against, because they know what the other team's typically used to. So I think that's what kind of maneuvering you'll see against enemy teams, like when the pros are doing it. But as for the current meta, I'm guessing it'll stay the same for now. It probably would have changed if in Season 3 they didn't make supporting a better role, but they have fixed support, made that a little bit funner role based off of the rewards you get for that now and the better items that have come out for that. So I don't personally see it changing too much. I might start trying some weird things again. I've seen a few more AD carries going mid, like way back in the day, and trying that out, because that can work really well against some AP mids, because a lot of AP mids don't have any armor at the beginning of the game, so an AD carry in the middle can actually do a lot of damage. So maybe you'll see some of that again. I've seen a few of them go top too, because since they have range, they can usually poke away the champions that don't have any range. So we'll see where some of that goes and see how some of that develops, but I don't think I'll see any main changes, or I don't see it happening unless the pros do something weird and everybody thinks that's the next fad in the game. So for now, I think the current meta is probably going to stay about the same. My next question coming in today is asking, so in a lot of games I've seen people build two Dorrans blades or two Dorrans rings, and I was wondering, is it good to build two instead of just going for the main items? They say it's good early advantage, but I don't know. I usually start with boots and pots, and is there really any point to buying those items after that? Well, I personally don't usually build a lot of Dorrans items. I think they're decent, and I don't mind them. Stacking them can help you. If it does benefit you early, you kind of need to hopefully get some assists or kills with them, and that's how it benefits you. If you end up buying them and you're still dying with lots of them, and then you go to sell them, you're just kind of burning a little bit of money. This is kind of a personal preference thing. I won't recommend them in my builds typically, unless I think it's like the best first starting items. The problem I have with Dorrans blades and Dorrans rings is, and this isn't saying everybody who does this with those items is this way, but I see a lot of people start building one, and then they'll build two, and then they still don't know what they want to do with their build, and then they'll build a third, and then they'll build a fourth. I've seen people go mid with 4 Dorrans rings, and it's at that point you probably should start building items that are going to help you in the long term, because if you can't really get any return out of those rings, then what's going to happen is you're going to need to sell those, and you're going to basically be wasting some gold. So that's just a few things. If you want some earlier items that can help you and maybe contribute better late game, maybe some gold per 5 items with some healing properties to them, like a Philosopher's Stone. So maybe something like that will be helpful. Dorrans blades can work really well, especially on a few early champions. Draven does pretty good with them. I mean, pretty much any AD carry is good with a Dorrans blade or a couple of them. I just usually don't do it because I like building towards my main items, because if somebody builds 2 Dorrans blades and then their boots, and then I just build the first part of my boots and then a BF sword, in a fight I'm probably going to hurt them a lot more and probably win that fight. So it kind of comes down to a personal preference, and that's just some of the reasons why I don't usually mention it. If you find that they work great for you, continue to do that, and don't be afraid to substitute some Dorrans items into your builds. If you're watching my builds and I didn't build one, don't be afraid to throw in a Dorrans blade if you just want some little extra health, a little extra damage, and some sustain early on. So it's not a bad idea. You just have to find if it kind of works with your playstyle and how you like to go about things. My next question today is asking armor penetration versus attack damage runes. I've been trying to decide which is better and why. Can you help? Well, this is actually a fantastic question, and I don't really have a perfect answer for you. I personally lately have been running more attack damage runes, because if it's with the correct champion, or with certain champions, if they scale with attack damage on their abilities better, then that's when I believe attack damage runes would benefit you more. Now, if you're a champion and you do just rely on your standard attack, and your Q, W, and E don't really scale off of attack damage or more attack damage, then armor penetration, in my opinion, would be more of the correct choice. Now, it just kind of depends on the champion, and you got to look in to see how much damage or how much extra damage you'll get based off of having X amount of attack damage will be. So it kind of gets into crunching a lot of numbers and figuring out which champions it's best for and which ones it's not. It's kind of hard to break down. Typically on champions that are probably hybrid, you probably would want armor, or you probably want penetration, just because you're not worried about scaling as much attack damage up because you're going to go hybrid. So on a lot of hybrids, probably Jax has one of them, you wouldn't really need to worry about attack damage runes because you're going to be going hybrid and you're going for damage all across the board. So armor penetration might help you out a little bit more there just in general. But when it comes to some AD carries, especially lately, I personally have been taking attack damage because a lot of your poking abilities, like your Q with Caitlyn or with Graves or with Quinn, a lot of those scale fairly well with attack damage. So I build some attack damage runes, and that way those abilities hurt a little more early on, and your standard attack, in theory, has a little bit more damage on it. So just kind of depends on the champion, and it's another one of those, which one fits your playstyle and how does it work well for you. If you're just a standard attacking champion and you don't use your abilities too much, then maybe armor penetration is perfect for you, but maybe attack damage is good. I don't know. It just really depends. So it's kind of a weird gray area. The other thing you could do is just go half attack damage and half armor penetration for your marks. Just kind of split it down the middle. You get some of both. Never a bad idea. I think the other reason why I usually take attack damage runes over armor pen is because if I really am worried about armor pen in the game, I'll build the Last Whisper. I don't always recommend the Last Whisper in my AD carry builds, but that item to me is always a situational item. You don't have to build it every game. Some teams just don't build armor, so you really don't need the penetration. If they are a tankier team, then yeah, and they're starting to stack armor, then you probably should pick one up. So if I'm going to build penetration, I'm going to do it kind of deliberately. Now I know on a couple builds I build penetration regardless because it just is disgusting on a few champions. Like Talon, I just build all the penetration stuff because Talon's just disgusting like that. So it just kind of depends. So those are my inputs on those. Like I said, it's a playstyle thing. I think attack damage is a little bit better. I think it's scaled a little bit higher too, but I mean in the long run, maybe we need to do some tests on this and figure this out more specifically. So if you have any input on this, go ahead and put it in the comments. Well, I'm interested to see what some of you think about this. My next question today is kind of similar, at least in the category of what the last question was about runes. But this question asks, I have finally built up a good number of champions and I can play every position quite well, and I really want to try ranked. The only problem is I don't have any runes. Should I buy full rune pages before I play ranked, and can you explain how the rune pages really work? A lot of my rune pages in my guides are very, very similar, and I think a lot of the reasons is because I find that some of these runes are the best ones in the game. Like, the armor seals are the best seals. Like, they just give you the best return if that's the kind that work for your champion. I do the mana regen seals per level for most of my casters who use a lot of AP. And then other than that, a lot of the other ones get armor seals, because the armor seals, they give you like 1.4 armor per seal. So at the beginning of the game, you have 14 additional armor, which is great for all of your junglers and anybody who's in top lane. So that's pretty much what I do. So most of my most of my build videos, in the description, the rune pages are very, very similar. So if you want to know which runes are the best runes, or which runes I think are some of the best runes, that's a good place to start. Now there's some other runes if you want to get really specific into builds and get a little more specific than I get. I get kind of just generic when it comes to runes a little bit for certain champions, because I'm not going to recommend you go buy crazy runes just for one champion. So I make some runes work. I do have a handful. I don't have all the runes, obviously, because that's going to take a little bit of time. Although I'm going to start to get there because I have close to all the champions now. But runes, yes, they're very important, and you need to have the right runes or suit out the right rune pages to go play ranked. It's very important, especially early game. I would definitely say try to buy another rune page too if you can. I think I have 6 rune pages total, and I mean I have like an AD carry page, I have a AP mid page, I have a tank page, and then I have like a jungler page, and then I sometimes have a crit page, because crit page is kind of hilarious on a few champions and works really well actually in some weird situations. And then I have like an AP no mana page is what I call it, and these do change a little bit around and such, and they're not for specific champions because you could use some of these with other champions that you don't have to. It just kind of depends. So, like I said, the armor penetration, the attack damage marks are some of the strongest, along with the magic penetration marks, the armor seals, the magic resist per level, or magic resist per level glyphs, cooldown glyphs. Those are some of the best glyphs. As for the quints, there's a lot of good quints: attack damage, ability power, movement speed. And even the passive healing ones, I don't always recommend them, but the ones that give you health per 5, those ones, if you have all 3 of them, you have like a lot of health every second. So it's actually pretty good. So it just kind of comes down to what you're used to or what you want to play with, and figure out what works best for your champions. If you can find something similar to I like how my phone went off. Something similar that will work to what I recommended. Like if it was for an AD carry and I said get attack damage marks and you want to go armor pen, go for that. Or get something similar, or get something that will fit that champion at least. Get some maybe attack speed. The attack speed marks aren't too bad, but you might not notice as much of a difference with those than with some standard damage ones. So, and then if you're playing hybrid champions, the hybrid runes are really good. I don't have any of them because I haven't bought them yet, or I haven't got them. So you can run those too if that's what you're looking for. So runes are important. Make sure you kind of fill them out to the champions you need and how they'll help you the most. But I definitely want to jump into raid games without having full rune pages, built up. You're gonna really want to have runes that can make the difference in fights. My next question today is asking, whenever buying a new champion, is the appearance of that champion a major factor on whether you buy them or not? Personally, no. I don't really care how they look. It's I care about playstyle and how fun they are to play over look most of the time. Also, I don't get picky. One of my favorite champions is Trundle. He sure isn't a looker. But I mean, no, it doesn't matter to me. I appreciate the art design behind almost all the champions, but I did go to school for art, so that might be why. So no, I don't know. Some of them I don't think look that cool, but that doesn't affect whether or not I'm going to play them. So there's definitely some cool looking champions I just don't play because I just don't care to. So no, it doesn't affect whether or not I buy them. My next question is asking me a couple questions. Asking, is Malphite a good champion? Why or why not? And what champions do you not own? Yes, Malphite is a good champion. He is very, very strong. If he's played correctly, he can actually destroy a lot of teams. I've just kind of started playing around with Malphite a little bit more than I used to, and I've had some fun with him. I've had some good results. I'm still working out his early game and what I want to build for it. But he's interesting. He can be kind of fun. He's one of those, you build more armor, you do more damage. So you get tanky and you still deal damage. So he might be considered overpowered in that aspect, but he's definitely fun and worth buying if you don't have him. As for the champions I do not currently own, I think it's like 10, 12, something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but they are Anivia, Brand, Corki, Hecarim, Galio, Lulu, Nocturne, Skarner, and Zyra, and Urgot. I think that's it. So those are the champions I don't own. There's still a handful of champions I own that I don't really play, just because I haven't really played them a lot. Some of the champions I don't look forward to playing. Lulu, I don't think she's fun. Anivia, Janna, Hecarim. A lot of champions I don't own. I've played a couple times, but I don't enjoy their playstyles. Or at least I haven't enjoyed their playstyle. I don't honestly think I've ever played Urgot. Maybe a couple times. Zyra's okay, actually. I just don't own her. So there's a handful of champions I don't own. I will eventually be owning them, obviously. So, yeah. Corki, played him a couple times. He's alright. I have other champions I go to for my AD carries. I'd rather play Ezreal or Caitlyn or Draven, even, which is kind of scary because I don't even like Draven. But, yeah, there's a handful of champions I don't own, obviously because they cost IP. And that'll happen. I do own Thresh. I had that question for the longest time. Somebody actually gifted me Thresh. Except for I don't really like his playstyle as much as I thought I would. I hate the delay on his throw, so maybe that's just me. I think it's a little weird feeling. He's like a harder version of Blitzcrank who has a slightly tankier base stats because of that picking up the orbs. So that's my input. That if you want to know the difference between blah 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 and blah blah blah, you know, there's your difference between Blitz and Thresh. So yeah, those are the champions I don't own. You can buy them for me if you want to. Somebody has. But other than that, yeah, those are the champions I don't own. I'll get them eventually, but it takes time, obviously. When you play more games, gotta get more IP. But that's pretty much gonna round out League Talks for today. Answered a handful of questions, but like I said, if you have questions for a future episode of League Talks, submit me a private message on YouTube, labeling the subject as League Talks, and ask me your question there. That is what's up. Other than that, I don't really have much questions for a next one, so if I don't get anything left, that's what's up. So go ahead and check out old League Talks, though, to see what was going on in those, and you might learn something. They're actually great guides or great things to just listen to if you're newer to the League of Legends, so I definitely recommend checking those out. And don't forget to check out the Tips for Lolling series, too, if you are newer to League of Legends. Also very helpful information in there as well. But other than that, guys, I guess I'll just see all of you in the next build video.